Did you know that every second a million thoughts race through our minds, weaving narratives that often lead nowhere, but to our own stress and unhappiness? Today, we're diving into how we can free ourselves from the tight grip of overthinking, a mental maze that many of us get lost in daily. Welcome to a journey where ancient Buddhist wisdom meets modern mindfulness, offering you real solutions to calm the chaos within. In this episode, we'll uncover the powerful teachings of Buddha that teach us the art of letting go, practices that have transformed millions of lives across the globe. If you find yourself replaying conversations in your head or worrying about the future, you're not alone, and this discussion could be the turning point towards a more peaceful, mindful existence. As we explore these transformative ideas together, remember, if you appreciate what we're doing here, hitting that subscribe button is a simple, free way you can support us. And don't skip any part of the video. Every minute is packed with insights that promise to enlighten and uplift. Let's begin this incredible journey towards inner peace and clarity. Sometimes our minds feel like they're under siege by our own thoughts. Picture yourself carrying a backpack throughout the day. Now imagine that every time you have a worrying or repetitive thought, a stone is added to that backpack. Soon the load becomes unbearable, right? This is akin to the burden of overthinking, a common habit that can feel as heavy as carrying a mountain on your shoulders. Buddha once taught about the monkey mind, a term that describes a mind that jumps from thought to thought, like a monkey swings from tree to tree. Overthinking is a prime example of the monkey mind in action. It can make us feel restless, perpetually on edge, and often leads us down a path of endless what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. But why do we let ourselves get caught in this loop of overthinking? At its core, it's often a misguided attempt to control the uncontrollable. We believe that by thinking about a problem long enough, we can solve it or prevent bad outcomes. However, more often than not, this is an illusion. In the teachings of Buddhism, there's a profound emphasis on the concept of impermanence and acceptance. Overthinking typically stems from our reluctance to accept this impermanence. We cling to thoughts because we desire certainty in a world that is fundamentally uncertain. But as Buddha pointed out, attachment, the root of all suffering, includes our thoughts. We cling to our worries and fears, mistakenly believing that they are essential parts of our existence, that they are as real and as fixed as the ground under our feet. Yet, just like the seasons change and leaves fall from trees, our thoughts are transient, fleeting. So, how can we lessen the weight of overthinking? Mindfulness meditation is one powerful technique derived from Buddhist practices. It teaches us to observe our thoughts without attachment, to recognize them as they arise and to let them pass without getting entangled. Imagine observing your thoughts like clouds moving across the sky, some dark, some light, constantly changing shape and form, but always passing by. The sky doesn't cling to the clouds, and similarly, we need not cling to our thoughts. Another Buddhist concept that helps combat overthinking is the idea of living in the present moment. Overthinking is fundamentally a preoccupation with the past or the future. By focusing on the here and now, we anchor ourselves away from the endless possibilities that fuel our anxieties. Engaging fully in the present activity, whether it's eating, walking, or talking with a friend, can dramatically reduce the space available for unnecessary thoughts. Moreover, the practice of loving-kindness meditation, metta, encourages us to replace negative thought patterns with positive intentions, not only towards others, but also towards ourselves. This shift can lighten the mental load significantly, as positive thoughts are inherently less burdensome than negative ones. Lastly, the understanding that we are not our thoughts is liberating in itself. Overthinking often leads to identification with our thoughts, which can trap us in a cycle of emotional reactions. The Buddhist path teaches us that by detaching from this identification and viewing our thoughts as separate from our true selves, we gain the freedom to choose which thoughts to engage with and which to let go of. As we learn to apply these Buddhist teachings, the weight of overthinking begins to lift. We find that our backpack of stones becomes lighter, not because the world around us has necessarily changed, but because we have changed the way we interact with our thoughts. We learn to carry only what serves us, leaving behind the burden of overthinking to move forward with a lighter step and a clearer mind. Imagine holding on to a hot coal. You know it burns, yet there's a part of you that can't seem to let go. That's a bit like attachment. It's this deep-seated habit we have of clinging to people, experiences, and outcomes, often to our own detriment. Today, let's explore the Buddhist perspective on attachment and discover why it often leads to suffering, and how understanding this can profoundly change the way we interact with the world around us. Buddha taught that the root of all suffering is attachment. This might sound extreme at first, but think about it. Whenever you experience pain, whether emotional or physical, isn't there often a desire for things to be different than they are? Perhaps it's a relationship you can't move on from, or expectations you hold for someone that they can't possibly meet. These attachments keep us locked in a cycle of desire and disappointment. Let's break it down further. Attachment is essentially our insistence on holding on to what often cannot be held. Consider relationships, for instance. When we bond with someone, it's natural to develop feelings of love and closeness. However, problems arise when these feelings transform into a dependency, where our happiness seems contingent upon the actions and feelings of another. This dependency is what Buddha referred to when he talked about the suffering that comes from attachment. The tighter we hold, the more painful it becomes when those attachments are inevitably disrupted by life's constant changes. It's crucial to understand that everything in our world is impermanent. People change, feelings shift, and life events can turn our world upside down in a heartbeat. Holding on too tightly to any aspect of our lives sets us up for suffering. The beauty of Buddhism lies in the practice of mindfulness, which teaches us to appreciate the present without excessively worrying about the future or lamenting the past. Practicing non-attachment does not mean we do not care. On the contrary, it allows us to love freely without imposing our own needs and desires onto others. It means enjoying relationships and experiences fully, but without becoming dependent on them for our happiness, and without trying to control their outcomes. This frees us from a lot of unnecessary pain and opens us up to experiencing life in its fullest, most vibrant form. Moreover, understanding and practicing non-attachment can lead to greater peace within ourselves. Think about the last time you let go of a grudge or forgave someone. Remember that sense of relief? That's a small glimpse of what life can be like when we loosen our grip on our attachments. By cultivating a mindset of acceptance and letting go, we're not just avoiding pain, we're actively creating more space in our lives for peace and contentment. To start practicing non-attachment, begin by observing your thoughts and feelings. Notice when you're getting caught up in wanting things to go a certain way, or trying to hold on to something that's meant to change or end. Acknowledge these feelings without judgment, and gently remind yourself of the impermanence of all things. Meditation can be a great tool here. It helps us sit with our thoughts and feelings without acting on them impulsively, providing a clearer perspective on what really matters. Embarking on the path to letting go is not just a practice, but a profound transformation of how we perceive and interact with the world around us. Buddha's teachings guide us through this journey, emphasizing that the root of much of our suffering is attachment, clinging not just to physical things but to ideas, dreams, and even people. This process of letting go, deeply embedded in Buddhist philosophy, is essential for achieving true peace and lasting happiness. Let's delve into what it really means to let go. It's a concept often misunderstood as detachment or indifference, But in the teachings of Buddha, it represents a mindful release of the obsessions that bind our minds and cloud our hearts. It's about observing our thoughts and emotions without allowing them to define us or dictate our inner peace. Imagine holding sand in your open palm. It stays where it is. Now, clench your fist. Most of it slips away. This is what happens when we grasp too tightly at the things we fear losing. The beauty of letting go lies in the liberation it brings. It allows us to experience life in its truest form, impermanent, ever-changing, and unpredictably beautiful. Each moment becomes more poignant when you're not trying to capture it within the confines of your expectations. Instead, you experience life as it unfolds, accepting joys and disappointments with equanimity. This acceptance doesn't mean resignation, but an understanding that the nature of life is transient and clinging too tightly causes more pain than pleasure. Practicing the art of letting go begins with mindfulness. It's a simple yet powerful practice where we anchor ourselves in the present moment. Mindfulness trains us to recognize when our thoughts drift towards anxiety about the future or regrets about the past. We learn to bring our focus back to the here and now, engaging fully with our current activities and experiences. This presence is where peace resides, free from the burdens of past mistakes and future worries. Another crucial aspect of letting go involves compassion, particularly towards oneself. Often, we hold on to painful memories or fears about the future because we believe they serve a purpose, protecting us from repeating past mistakes or preparing us for the worst. However, Buddha taught that compassion begins with oneself. When we treat ourselves with kindness and understanding, we make peace with our imperfections and become more forgiving of ourselves. This self-compassion naturally extends to others, fostering a more loving and tolerant interaction with the world. Letting go also entails a deep dive into our values and beliefs. It requires us to examine what truly matters to us and to distinguish between what we can control and what we cannot. This discernment simplifies our lives as we begin to shed the unnecessary weight of outdated beliefs, unachievable goals, and one-sided relationships. It aligns our actions more closely with our true selves, unburdened by societal expectations or personal illusions. Finally, the path to letting go is a journey of continuous learning and adjustment. It's about making peace with the flow of life and finding joy in the resilience of the human spirit. With each step, we learn a little more about ourselves and the impermanent nature of our experiences. This wisdom does not make us cold or uncaring, quite the opposite. It enriches our interactions with warmth and authenticity because we engage with the world not out of need or desperation, but from a place of completeness and contentment. One of the most profound lessons Buddha taught us is about the transient nature of everything around us. Nothing stays the same forever, and this isn't just a philosophy, it's the reality of the world we live in. Think about the last time you watched a sunset, how its beauty was fleeting, yet it brought immense peace. Or consider how we experience seasons. They come and go, each bringing its own set of changes and new beginnings. This ebb and flow, this constant state of flux, is what life is all about. By understanding and accepting this, we learn to appreciate the present moment without clinging to it. But why is embracing impermanence so crucial? Simply put, it frees us. When we realize that nothing is permanent, we're less likely to get attached. We start to understand that clinging to people, possessions, or experiences only sets us up for suffering. This isn't to say that we should not value these things, but rather that we should enjoy them without the fear of their loss overshadowing our happiness. Buddha's teaching on impermanence, known as anicca, reminds us that just as a leaf that falls from a tree is not a tragedy, but a natural part of its life cycle, so too are the losses and changes we experience in life natural and necessary. Delving deeper into detachment, it might sound like a call to become emotionless or uncaring, but in reality, It's quite the opposite. Detachment is not about removing emotions or affection. It's about separating our peace and happiness from external circumstances. It's learning to love freely without dependencies. Imagine loving someone purely for who they are, not for what they provide you emotionally or materially. This form of love is liberating for both you and them. It is not burdened by expectations or demands. Moreover, detachment empowers us to stay calm in the face of life's inevitable ups and downs. It teaches us to approach life's challenges with a balanced mind. If a relationship ends, if a job changes, or if we lose something we hold dear, detachment allows us to view these events without despair. It teaches us resilience, helping us to bounce back from losses that would otherwise have the potential to derail us. The practice of detachment also enriches our inner lives. It makes space for a deeper kind of growth, one that isn't hindered by excessive worry about impermanence. We become more adaptable, more accepting of different outcomes, and more open to new experiences. When we're not fixated on maintaining the status quo, we can embrace change as an opportunity for development and new adventures. However, mastering impermanence and detachment is not about denying emotions or avoiding attachment. It's about understanding the nature of things and our reactions to them. When we grasp that everything is temporary, we can reduce the suffering caused by our resistances and aversions. This doesn't mean we don't feel pain or sorrow. These emotions are natural. But we don't let them define us or dictate our happiness. We accept them, learn from them, and then let them pass like clouds moving across the sky. So how can we start practicing these principles in our daily lives? Begin by observing your reactions to small changes or losses. Notice where you feel resistance and gently remind yourself of the nature of impermanence. Meditation can be a powerful tool here, helping to center your thoughts and bring awareness to the present without attachment to the past or future. Each moment is an opportunity to practice letting go, to train the mind to embrace the flow of life without clinging. This isn't easy, and it doesn't happen overnight, but each step on this path brings us closer to the profound peace and freedom that Buddha spoke of. As we close today's exploration into the transformative power of Buddhism, remember, the path to true peace is a journey of letting go and embracing the flow of life. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. If you're inspired to delve deeper, I encourage you to watch the suggested video appearing on your screen next. Your presence and engagement in this journey enrich us all. Thank you for being a part of our Buddhist journey. Until next time, may you walk gently and with peace.